Hello and welcome to this week's painting tutorial. I'm super happy to be finally able to edit and make this video about this cute pink-haired elf girl, which I created for the Bad Apple Artist auction this month, and if everything goes well, then the auction will be today. At the same time when the painting tutorial is out, so if you like to bid on this piece, head over to the Bad Apple Artist Collective at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 11 p.m. in Germany, so this night, and place your bid if you like to take this elf girl home. And thanks to you, my lovely patrons, you helped me so well with finding a name, and I chose Fuchsia as a name for her. Thank you, Tracy, so much for your suggestion. What a wonderful name. But all the other ones were also perfect and wonderful. I just like that with Fuchsia, it also have a nice ring in German. In Germany, we have the same word, and it's pronounced Fuchsia, which I kind of like too, so you can go with either of the pronunciation, and I think it really fits her well. So, and for this painting I thought, because it was relatively small, that I would make a self-built strange vertical palette construction for you, so that you can see which colors I use and how I mixed my oil paint for the portrait. And what was also different with this piece is that it is painted on a wooden panel. I normally paint on canvas, and I think this was just a fun experiment for me to paint on wood. I think I will go back on canvas because it's just the medium I really am best in, and I can apply my technique. I have learned to apply my technique best on canvas, but it obviously works on wood too. The interesting difference is that there are things that I have to adapt to wood. They are the same strategies and technique I use on canvas, but I have, for example, adapt the amount of liquid I use, or the amount of color I use, or how strong or how soft I hold the brush. And these are like little things that I would have to adapt to make pieces on wood, which is very interesting and just proves that you can paint on every surface, and the same techniques or just variations of those techniques will work on every surface. I guess I would say probably not on glass or porcelain or whatever, but just when you paint, there are just a lot of techniques that are similar. And so you can learn from so many artists and just adapt your technique. And I started this painting, as I usually do with my normal canvas pieces, by trying to make a more or less accurate pre-drawing on the surface, which was pretty difficult because, as I said, this was the first time I painted on wood since I painted a portrait on wood since almost an eternity. So I was definitely struggling to get the right drawing on the surface, and what I did to help me was just to get a cotton towel and rub the areas out that I found were wrong and didn't look or kind of looked off. And this helped me to make a more or less accurate pre-drawing. And then I'm continuing with blocking the colors onto the surface, and I don't, as you see, I don't pay attention to any details, or just, it doesn't look good at all. It really looked really creepy from at this stage, but I found it important to have the most major colors in place and to make sure that everything fits together. And after I placed the major areas or blocked in the major colors, I tried to begin with blending them in, and on wood, I found it more easier to take a soft brush, and this one has the form of a knife, which I use in different angles according to the brush strokes and to the edges I want to accomplish on my painting. So for example, when I paint like the cheek, I go with my brush along the line of the cheek and hold it so that I can have a nice and smooth edge. And I also do this with those flat, larger brushes. I hold them in different angles to make sure that I have nice, smooth edges and to not destroy something when I just paint with the brush in only one single direction. So I'm always doing that, and I did it even more so on wood because I found the surface is more delicate than on canvas and less forgiving. So I had to pay more attention to the angle, how I hold the brush, and also the pressure of the oil paint. And also I had to mix my colors more carefully because on canvas I just take any color and put it on the canvas and then mix it in the color on the canvas in the other color and blending it in the other colors around. And I had to pre-mix the colors a bit more carefully because the oil paint looks exactly on the panel as on my palette. So when I took a color and it was a little bit off, it would show directly. On canvas it's not the case, so I had to mix more carefully. What I really loved with this surface is that I could go in detail so well, and especially with the birds. It was actually more easier to paint the birds on panel than on canvas. And I started with the major or most important areas of the bird, and that are the eyes and the beak. And a technique that I often do is that I start with the darker areas, and then when I take a lighter color, for example this yellow, I go with the brush into the dark area and form and shape the area like on the reference pic to make it look right. And the thing that happens is that you have a nice edge, and it is easier, for me at least, to place a lighter color into a dark color than the other way around, because maybe you have also tried it out, but try to paint a white oil paint and then try to make it darker with dark color. So that does not really work. But if you have a dark oil paint and especially a translucent dark oil paint, and then you place a white color in it, it always gets lighter easily. So that's why I start with the darks and work my way up to the lightest tones. And for absolutely light and white tones, I of course wait until everything is dried and place the whites on top. And now you see that I already reached the second layer of oil paint on this painting, and I just try to make her eyes very detailed because I really love those huge and expressive eyes. And I took a very small brush, and also with the eyes I paid attention to the angle of my brush, because this was really the only way how I could make gradients, make a brush stroke and take another brush stroke and make this a little bit smoother. So you see that I begin in one area and just work my way around to the next area. This is different from the color blocking in the first place, where I'm just blending everything together in the end. On the second layer, where I'm more carefully, I start in one area and work my way around to the next one. And usually I start with the eyes, sometimes with the mouth and the nose, but I think most of the cases I start at the eyes. And I found with this painting the light was very interesting and new to paint for me because it had such a nice yellowish, warm and partly cold yellowish impression. And this was very, very nice to paint, but also very challenging. What is also important when you paint a portrait is that there's oftentimes on one side of the face the light more intense than on the other side, and sometimes one tends to paint both sides equally light, but there are subtle differences in color value, so these areas are very difficult to paint. And the most difficult area to paint I found was her under the cheek, where the cheek meets the neck, and this area really took really long. And what I do is that I step back and forth from the canvas. I really do it sometimes after one brush stroke. I go back 3 or 5 or 6 steps from the canvas and have a look at my painting from the distance, and also I squint my eyes so that I can see where the values are. And it is good, I do it that I both look on my reference picture on the laptop and on my painting, and I go back and squint the eyes, and then I see where the color value mistakes are. And sometimes I also photograph my painting with my smartphone, and then I can also see color value mistakes. And you see that currently on the painting there's a bit of orange under her mouth, and this is, for example, too intense. And those little mistakes happen all the time, and I found to correct these mistakes I found them very labor intensive, because it really takes a long time, and every time you correct them you have also to blend in the color you put in there, but there's really no way around it. And professional artists have to cope with this problem all the time. This is just the way it goes. Color values plus making smooth gradients is always labor intensive, but I like those challenges, and I think every time I kind of solve those problems, it's really satisfying and then nice and wonderful to see the result. And now we are already at these rows, these cute little rows, and I really liked on panel how thin my layers could be. When I paint on canvas, I always have the grain of the canvas, and on the panel it is so smooth, and this really fits with the rows. So I could paint forever and paint all these little folds and flower petals of the rose. I had the feeling that I could place more color over each other than I could on canvas, and this was very nice. And also with the bird, this was really, I found it very easy to paint this bird, because this bird actually only had 3 colors. It was yellow, then a kind of greenish brownish shadow tone, and especially with this knife-shaped brush, it was so easy, because the brush kind of did all the work. I just had to use it in the right angle and start at the right place. And this bird was a little bit more difficult, because it has 2 colors. This blue, of course it has more colors, but the main colors are this blue and the pinkish color of his chest. And it also had a kind of straight shape to his body, a little cute fat bird. I really love those, they're so cute. And I placed the whites over the dark tones, and then use the shape of the brush to make the feathers of the bird. And always keep in mind that different brushes can do so many things. And my favorite saying would be that the best paintings are made just from tricks. And with this I mean that when you have a technique for everything that you could paint, that for example, I have a specific technique to paint roses, and I have a specific technique to paint birds. And when you have all those techniques together, you can just paint everything. And when I don't know how to paint a new thing, then I just start with my regular technique, which is look and try to copy it. And then after time, I kind of develop, oh, okay, I have to paint it like this. And when I hold the brush like this, it makes this nice effect, and then it looks almost like the reference. And so these different techniques develop, and you can develop your own techniques based on mine or just based on your own experiences. And I painted for such a long time, and this is really nice to have all those techniques in place. What the downside is of this happens sometimes is that I just paint all the different things on my painting with those techniques, and then in the end the painting doesn't look like as if everything would fit together. So I have to also have the overall painting and the overall impression of the painting in mind and see, okay, does this technique really fit to the other technique? And sometimes the color is too thick. For example, if I paint roses with my rose technique and they are very thick, but they are in the background, and something that is in the foreground is very thin painted, then this wouldn't look well together. So I have to keep that in mind on top. So very difficult, but challenging and exciting, of course. So, and there I also decided to give her face a third layer of oil paint, because I wasn't quite happy with some details and some color values, and so I just added some details here and there and made some highlights on the eyes and also some highlights on her crown. And I really love the last step of every painting, because this is like I'm standing before the painting, in front of the painting, and think, what can I change to make the image better? What can I give the image, and how would little things improve the painting? And this is always very nice, because you already have done the most amount of work and just can finish here and there some things, and I really find that very satisfying. And I totally decided at the end to add her elf ears, and I'm super happy with this decision. And I really want to dig more deeper into the whole fantasy theme, and it makes me so happy to paint those fantasy works. And I will see if there will be just more fantasy and elf girls. I think there will, and I'm definitely excited to see how it will go from here. And to answer one of your questions, there was one question from Envy, and it is, why do you use a pink color as your base layer before the painting? So for this painting I did not use a pink layer, but basically I'm pretty open with the colors I use. Sometimes it is more random, and I just start with colors that I think would go nice and would fit with everything. So for example, I start to build my canvases, and I just then use some pastel tones to underpaint them, and even if I don't know the motifs yet. But sometimes when I start with a motif, I think either of a color that would fit to the painting at the end, which is already in the painting, or I use a complementary color. So for example, turquoise for pink, or when the painting is more red, then I would probably use a bluish underpainting. But it is really not set, and I'm just varying the underpainting, because I always want to have a different effect, and I don't want that my paintings look very similar. I hope you liked this painting tutorial and it answered some of your questions and it just helped to improve your technique a bit. And I just want to call your attention real quick to my Valentine's sale, which I'm having at the moment at my shop until February the 10th. And I decided to make it a bit earlier this year because if you are from overseas and you want your Valentine's present in time, it would be good if you would purchase this month so that it is guaranteed that your order arrive in time. Of course, I can't guarantee the services of the postal offices because they are always different, but sometimes it takes 10 days or sometimes 20 days until my orders arrive to the USA. So if you are interested in purchasing something from my shop, you're getting 20% off by using the code Cupido at the checkout. And that was it from me this week. For more shorter videos, you can also see my YouTube channel. I'm trying to make some fun videos over there. Let me know what you think. I hope you have a happy painting day and I see you in the next video. Bye bye!